And I'll stop sharing my screen. And Meg, over to you.
Hi, thank you. I'm Meg Power. I work with a partnership on this weatherization project, Community Action Partnership, Weatherization Partnership Project. And I also work with NCAF on the energy programs that Congress is authorizing, not authorizing, and funding. So we all wanted to be able to give you an opportunity to think about some new ideas to advocate for when trying to manage the tsunami of debt that we think you're going to be facing. We all share the anxiety that is being felt in the network about what happens when these moratoria end and what happens when the goodness knows how many, maybe 36 million newly poor households show up at the door needing help with utilities. NCLC has been forever the source of brilliant project ideas that relate to the structuring and regulation of utility programs that can be state legislative or regulatory. John Howitt has been the lead in inventing, promoting, and teaching how to advocate for ourselves when there isn't a full-time expert available the way the large corporations have available. This is an introduction not only to some ideas, but to an extraordinary set of pages in the NCLC website that John has masterminded with policy solutions that would be presumably come to permanent smart debt management, arrearage management policies, and the tools that can build your argument, your states and local, if you wish, statistical argument for the need for these programs. Some wonderful, you'll see spreadsheets that you can fill in yourself with your data and make an expert case to your commissioners or legislators or utilities. They will simply work on it with you. As you go through this, think about adapting these large policies to individuals as they come in and you negotiate with your utilities directly. If you don't know John Howitt, you will by the end of this, but you should know that he's one of the best friends that Community Action has on the energy advocacy and policy front. And with no further ado, I'll give you John.
Oh, Meg, that was awfully nice of you. Thank you. And are you folks able to see the cover slide that's up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks so much, Catherine and Meg, for the invitation to be here. It really is a pleasure. National Consumer Law Center is a low-income law and policy advocacy group. We're based in Boston and Washington, D.C. At NCLC, we work on a broad range of issues that are of economic importance to low-income households. The organization's been around since 1969. One of the issue areas has to do with energy and utility service and access for low-income households. So you can imagine that this has been a pretty busy time for us all, as I know it has for you as well. NCLC's work on energy and utility service couldn't happen without partners who work at the state and local levels, and also the association's Community Action Foundation and Community Action Partnership. As far as I'm concerned, Community Action is family. We've been working together for a long time and want to continue doing so. And with respect to Meg, anything that you see here that you like in this presentation, you can attribute to Meg. If you don't like it, you can stick it back on me. But Meg is just an amazing friend, family, teacher, colleague, and it's been great to work with her over the past 20 plus years. So I wanted to also say that community action is, from my view, really in a unique position to promote programs and policies to help low-income households stay connected to vital utility service during this pandemic, the economic crisis that's attached, and well beyond. You uniquely have points of contact within the community. You know about program delivery, you know what works, you know what doesn't work, you understand about outreach issues, you understand about program administration like no one else, really. You also have tremendous contacts at the state level in your legislatures, and I can tell you, for if you're not before your regulatory commission working now, that if you begin to do so, you'll instantly have credibility and carry weight like no other party involved in these proceedings. So I also wanted to preface these remarks with this is really a plea for you to reach out. If you are interested now, or after this discussion you become interested in getting involved before your commission, at the state legislature, before the media, before your locally owned or cooperatively owned utility, the tools that you're going to hear about today are really, this is a visual presentation, but we're here to help. This is crunch time, as we all know. So this is really to urge, reach out. If there's something here that you're hearing about that you'd like to work on, sure, take a look at the links that you'll see in the slide presentation and the documents, but just give me a call or drop me an email, and I'll do my best to respond as soon as possible. So with that, I'd like to just go through a few slides, and after that, a little tour of some tools that we've developed at NCLC to help advocates make the case for programs and policies that really will benefit our low-income clients and members and neighbors. So let's see here. And I apologize in advance. This particular platform is a little new to me, so I'm going to do my best. Oh, and I also would urge, if you have discussion points or questions, drop them in the chat box, and we'll take a couple of breaks before the end of this presentation and see if we can't make this interactive. There will also be time afterwards for discussion amongst ourselves. So we start with with an assumption at NCLC, and I think most of the folks on this call share these assumptions, but I just quickly want to run through. We believe that home energy security, that is uninterrupted access to basic service without fear of disconnection notices, without disconnections, and without foregoing basic necessities, and certainly without keeping unhealthy indoor temperatures. These are fundamental aspects of utility service, and we believe that energy security should be available to all. You know full well, utility service is a basic necessity. It's not a commodity that can be foregone without severe threats to health and safety. In this age of COVID-19, utility service that including water and water heating so folks can wash their hands, cool their food, retain lighting, it's more necessary than ever. We know it happens when folks lose their service. If they don't have enough money to get it turned back on, there's risk of evictions. The kids certainly can't do their schoolwork. And the threats of fire and health consequences are very real. There are tremendous disparities in energy security among the states, with some historically having better protections and assistance programs than others. By consumer protections, I mean those protections that limit a utility's ability to shut certain customers off under certain circumstances, particularly low income, elders, those with a disability. There are disparities in the level of bill assistance that's available. Even the federal LIHEAP program is allocated to the states according to formulas. So it's not a straight dollars per low income person. There are other factors that come into play, and certainly there are tremendous disparities state to state in the ratepayer funded bill assistance programs. Similarly, low income energy efficiency, which at Community Action, you know better than anyone else how important it is to home energy security to have access to those services. But the ratepayer funded programs state to state are quite disparate. And when we talk about low income energy efficiency programs, we talk about the whole house deep retrofit programs that really help folks save money and improve cash flow. The notion of upfront payments that some promote doesn't work for low income. We know that. And sometimes we need to have conversations with our friends in clean energy to just to provide that reminder. Financing programs on low income energy efficiency are problematic. Our clients can't take on debt easily. I'm going to skip quickly ahead here. We see tremendous income disparities in energy security, state to state, and even within states. Folks with low incomes pay a greater proportion of those incomes just to keep the lights on and to keep indoor temperatures comfortable. We also see tremendous disparities by race with respect to disconnections and other measures of home energy security. And we're going to talk about some programs and policies to help get at those disparities. But we see some of those even when controlling for income. In other words, we see, for example, African American headed households being disconnected from service more frequently than their low income counterparts, Caucasian headed households. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. There are some slides here that you can look at more carefully lately if you choose, but as you know, the energy burden, that is the proportion of income devoted to home energy service, varies significantly by income. We see on the bottom of this slide the different census regions of the country and the percentage of income required to pay for home energy service for these different income categories. So really, it's pretty much a 7-to-1 disparity when you go from lower income households at less than $20,000 to those with income over $140,000. And there's really just a basic equity issue that's borne out by this dynamic. So going back for a moment to talk about race, here's an example, loss of heat in the past year due to unaffordable utility service. In 2015, you see Caucasian-headed households at about 4%, and African-American headed households at 10% in terms of loss of that service. There's another slide you can look at more carefully later that draws out some of these disparities by region. And this slide is important because we're controlling for income here and looking only at households below 150% of poverty. So you see in the South Census region, for example, among very low income households, 6.6% of Caucasian-headed households had their electricity disconnected, 16.1% among African-American headed households. This is just unjust. I'm going to skip ahead again here. At NCLC, we have tried to develop a few basic principles for to help promote energy security in this age of COVID, and as the utility moratoriums, or moratoria, you choose how you like to say it, expire. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about utility debt in just a moment. But some of these basic principles involve not only the moratoriums and refusal or limitations on disconnections, but restoration of service for customers who have already been disconnected, absent the need for a down payment. Late payment fees and security deposits, as unemployment grows and as poverty grows quickly in all regions of the country, those aspects of utility service should be waived. There's a need like never before for deferred payment plan options that allow customers to pay off utility debt in an affordable way. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we need, in looking at bill affordability, not to simply focus on the current bills, but to look at those back bills called arrearages sometimes, and look for ways to write those arrearages down in a manner that allows low-income households to maintain access to service. When weatherization crews are able to get back to work safely, we really need expansion of whole house energy efficiency and retrofit programs. And finally, we're very interested in seeing enhancements to the utility data tracking that exists. And the data that we're talking about here involves looking at both low-income and non-low-income residential customers and their arrearages. What are their debts looking like? To look at disconnections and service restorations. To look at late payment fees and security deposits that are required. To also track deferred payment agreement data so we can see how they're working. There are other data points that are included in an issue brief that I'm going to show you a link for in a moment. But without this data, without comprehensive regular time series or regular monthly reporting of these data points, we're not able to get a sense of energy security in the field. We don't know whether folks are being shut off and experiencing health and safety risks. But we also, without good data, we can't design good programs and policies that can effectively help keep folks connected to service, but also help utilities be effective in their credit and collection policies. So in moving on more toward to talk about some of these advocacy tools, I think some common features of any proposal include the need to show what are the disparities out there, what is the need for the new program or policy. And we need to, and this is universal, I think, but you need to demonstrate proposed program benefits and how those benefits will address the policy needs or the economic needs that are out there. You've got to be able to show what the program costs and who's going to pay for it, and describe how the program or policy is going to be administered. So no matter what you're proposing, whether it's a bill assistance program or an arrearage management program, a deferred payment agreement, consumer protection, I think these are some common elements that have to come forward, and we've tried to develop some tools to help advocates do just that. So some of these tools involve collecting the data points that I talked about a moment ago. There's a tool that lays out some scenarios of utility debt. How bad is this situation going to get? And that will depend on geography, but also on the duration of the economic aspects of this crisis and the poverty that exists within a utility service territory. But we've got some tools to help you estimate that and to bring estimates before decision makers in order to justify new programs and policies. Would like to also back up for a second and talk a bit more about bill assistance programs. When we talk about bill assistance programs at National Consumer Law Center and talk with Meg as well, she's long recognized this, but we can just deal with current bills and discount current bills, but if we don't deal with arrearages or those utility debts that customers may bring to a new program comprehensively and at the same time, then those current bills that we've made more affordable are suddenly unaffordable once again because a customer is required to also pay off that back debt. And similarly, if we focus only on the debts and don't address the current bills, well, you can just write the arrearage off and wipe a slate clean. But if current bills are unaffordable, that customer with a low income and with insufficient income to make ends meet is simply going to be back in the same position they started from in pretty much no time at all. So I'm going to switch over now to show a couple of these tools. These are documents, and I'm not going to read them. Don't worry, and you certainly shouldn't try to read them now. I just would like to kind of run through the these outlines and show you what's out there. And there, in the slide deck, there are links to each of these documents and tools, so you can access them on your own time. But really, the need for data right now has never been greater, and it's surprising to me, after working on these issues for so long, how many states don't have even rudimentary data collection systems. So here is a little issue brief that talks about ways to get this data, what data points are the most important, and provides links to some examples where the states do a reasonable job, maybe imperfect, but a reasonable job in gathering data points. So the key data points are listed here. We need, for low-income customers and general residential customers, the basics. How many customers are there? What's their billing each month? We need documentation of late fees.
John?
Yes.
We're seeing your slideshow, the Some NCLC tools. So
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. I need to thank you. Oh, boy. My apology.
No problem.
Is that better?
Thank you. And folks may want to look at it and view. You can go up to view and do full screen to be able to see it a little bit more.
Okay. I'll give folks just a second to do that. So I'm sorry, all of that previous discussion was just indecipherable gibberish because you couldn't see what I was talking about. And it might have been anyway, frankly, even if you'd have seen it. But anyway, this is the issue brief. There are links to it available on the slides, but essential data points are listed. We recommend in this issue brief that you attempt to obtain data on a zip code, on the zip code level, and this has to do with some of the disparities mentioned earlier, particularly with respect to race and ethnicity. We think that it's high time that data be reported in small geographic areas so we can see what's going on in the field out there, and if there are particular groups of customers that are not doing well or who are doing well. Again, there are examples in this issue brief of states that do a reasonable job, along with links to the data collection protocols and the documents that are created. There's discussion of how utilities tend to react when you ask for better data collection. It's usually not a positive reaction, as you may be able to guess. And there's a little bit of discussion about some of the community organizing benefits and potential of a campaign to collect this basic data. Another tool that's available and that's linked on the slides, in the slides, is a document that lays out some arrearage potential utility debt scenarios in COVID-19. And this issue brief focuses only on residential electricity service. It does not even begin to deal with natural gas or water or telecommunications utilities. This is just an example based on electricity. And even before getting to the arrearage scenarios, there's some information that you may find useful. On a state-by-state basis, there is a listing of utility residential electricity expenditures, and the states are ranked by how high the electricity expenditures are. The prices are ranked by state. And there's information about utility revenues and sales as well, if that would be useful to you. And again, that information is available for each of the 50 states. There is additional information on poverty and electricity burdens. Again, electricity burden being that proportion of income devoted to home electricity service. Once again, it's a state-by-state breakdown with rankings, and this may be useful for general program and policy advocacy. But again, in making the case for a new program, information like this really is essential. And finally, there are scenarios on how many customers in each state will fall behind on their bills, and what the dollar value of utility arrearage is, or arrearage again is, that just means utility debt, under a range of different scenarios, state by state. The first scenario is a very, it's a conservative one where 20% of customers in the state are behind by 60 days on their utility service. And there are states currently that have, before COVID, where numbers like this existed, where certainly among lower income customers, over 20% are late by more than 60 days. But this set of scenarios applies to all residential customers, and the scenarios range from 20% of customers being 60 days late to 40% of customers being 90 days late. And if this economic crisis continues nationally, I think 40% at 90 days is not an unrealistic scenario. Given the baseline that we started from and the number of unemployment claims being filed in recent weeks, 40% of customers being 3 months late, if this runs for another year or so, it's certainly plausible that we could fall into a range like this. And you'll see in this report that if 40% of customers in the U.S. are 90 days late, the electricity arrearages alone, and again, this is before natural gas or anything else, before commercial customers or industrial customers, this is just residential, but we're talking about a $19 billion problem if the economic crisis continues. I would like to shift now to discussion of a program design template. And this program design template is designed to assist advocates in putting a new program forward. And there are 3 program types that are contemplated in this template. One is called a straight discount, where a certain percentage of a bill is simply discounted for participating customers. The second program design is called a tiered discount, which targets the benefit level among participants so that those at the lowest end of the income spectrum or the highest levels of poverty receive the greatest benefit. And as you move up the income ladder, benefit levels decrease. And the third is a percentage of income payment plan model that sets a target energy burden level, or in this case, electricity burden level, and caps the bill at a certain percentage of income. And each of these program designs is contemplated to be administered in conjunction with an arrearage management component, meaning that timely payments on the current discounted bill are in essence rewarded or combined with writing off of a certain proportion of a household's back bills or arrearages. And after inputting data that we're going to walk through quickly, this template automatically generates charts. And these are utility specific. But in this case, I used ComEd in Illinois, not to point fingers at them or anything, but it's just an example. But in showing need, we have to show, for example, disparities in electricity burdens if we're going to propose a new program. Here, this chart shows that low income, low wage workers carry burdens that are much higher than a median income household or an upper income household. So you can see using this template what's going on in the field right now without the program. The template also generates charts automatically, pretty much, that show the impact of a proposed new program. So here again, in the blue bars, you see the undiscounted burden among certain household and income levels before and after implementation of the program to see what what the benefit is really. And similar charts are generated for all program types. There are tables that show the same thing that are generated automatically by this template. So showing benefits is one of the attributes of this tool. But in order to generate those charts, we need to input data in from a number of different sources. We need poverty data, and that data is available from the Department of Health and Human Services. We need median income information, minimum wage information, in order to establish what different income levels within a particular state. We also need information, utility-specific information on utility sales, on electricity sales, revenues, how many customers are served, and the revenue the revenue per kilowatt hour. And in order to understand the ratepayer impacts of a proposed new program, we need that information not just for residential customers, but also for commercial and industrial customers. And this information is all filed by utilities in a document called the FERC Form 1. And I'm not going to go into detail as to how to get that, but it's publicly available. I can help you get it. But it's really sort of an essential input to this template. The poverty guidelines we talked about, state median income guidelines, minimum wage information, all of this is publicly available. But again, if you're interested in working on a new proposal, just get in touch and I'll help you get this stuff or walk you through and give you a private tour. But part of the template involves also inputting assumptions about what level of discount are we looking for? What is the average arrearage that customers will bring to the program. How many participants do we anticipate in the program? What is the average electricity expenditure? So I'm going to walk through just to show this is the simplest of the program designs. This is just a straight discount. And in this example, the shaded cells, these are the input cells. We don't need to do anything to the non-shaded cells, but this program anticipates a 30% discount for low-income customers in the ComEd service territory and assumes a $400 average arrearage. Some will have less, some will have more, but we're assuming $400. And that number may in reality be higher or lower, and we would need to get that number from the utility company. But we're also assuming that this program will require 5% of the benefits generated to be devoted to administrative costs. The community action and community-based organizations that do intake, some for the utilities to rejigger their computer systems and the like. But we see under these assumptions, for over 72,000 ComEd customers, we see this program would cost $48 million a year. But we also, in going back to this FERC Form 1 spreadsheet, we see that $48 million is equal to 1% of the utility's revenue. So basically, we're asking everybody to pay 1% more here to implement a major new program. But I'd also like to show you what happens when we change some of these inputs. Say we want to, instead of a 30% discount, we learn that the politically feasible number that's available is a 25% discount. So here at 30%, we see a $48 million program. If we change this to 25, we see the program drops to a $45 million program. If the average arrearage we learn is actually $200 rather than $400, that drops the cost of the program below $30 million. We can change the number of participants to be equal to the number of LIHEAP participants, for example, in a state. But basically, this tool allows you to develop a range of different scenarios according to what you think you can get, what's feasible politically, what the need is in your state or in a particular utility service territory, or we learn that program administration should mirror LIHEAP, which I believe is set at 7%, and Meg will correct me if that's wrong, hopefully. But if we change this to 7%, we see how much that adds to the program cost. So again, whenever we're making a presentation for a new program, you have to show the costs, you have to show the benefits, and you have to show who pays. So again, all of those numbers we just played with are fed back into this FERC Form 1 spreadsheet, and we see monthly bill impacts for each of these classes of customers. For a general residential customer in the ComEd service territory, the program we're looking at now would raise the bill 77 cents a month. For a larger commercial and industrial customer, that bill impact would be higher. It'd be about $35 a month. But basically, these are the tools you need to estimate costs and benefits of a new program. And the template also includes the ability to propose a new tiered discount with an arrearage management component, or a new percentage of income payment plan program. And we don't have enough time to talk about the pluses and minuses of each of those program designs, but I just wanted to show you basically how this works. If you find this interesting, if you would like to make a new proposal, again, please feel free to get in touch. And I would conclude with saying that this is a bill assistance design template, but it can easily be altered to present costs and benefits associated with a deferred payment plan model, or how much it would cost the utility to cease charging late fees. All of these concepts, all of these inputs, if you will, would be required to be presented in order to estimate the costs and benefits associated with not only bill assistance, but you could use it to propose a new consumer protection model. Some of the same concepts are involved in estimating the costs of a ratepayer-funded low-income energy efficiency program too. So this is just the bare bones. I think the concepts are here, and I'd like to turn over for questions or discussion. And really thank you all for taking the time to join in this webinar today. And thanks also again to Meg and Kathleen.
Thank you, John. Just to clarify again, will that table or tool be available to the public? If you can let us know about that.
Yes, the links to each of these tools is available and included in the slides that I will send to you directly after the webinar. The spreadsheet itself, I would prefer that folks contact me about the spreadsheet itself, but use of it and is described in a report that's available on through a link in the slides.
Great. John, would you mind putting your email back up on the screen there? Make sure folks have that, or phone number.
Yes, I'm trying to switch back here. What are you seeing right now?
That's the spreadsheet.
Okay. All right, let me see here. Why am I not going over to? I'm trying to get back to the slideshow here.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's really easy email.
Here we are.
There you go.
Whew. Thank you. Okay, there are the links. And there's a slide that says this.
Great. I was curious too, if you could share an example, perhaps during this time with COVID-19, of some efforts that advocates are working on. I don't know if you can mention the states or any story there to share.
There's work ongoing in numerous states right now. Certainly in some of the more typical bill assistance states, California, Massachusetts, there's work to enhance programs and policies. But I thought I saw some folks from North Carolina here. I know there's some work going on in that state. I spoke with Christine from Iowa. I think she is involved with some efforts before some of the regulators in that state. And Lana from Community Action in Iowa is involved, is what I heard. There is a move afoot in Pennsylvania to expand the bill assistance program funding there. There's work ongoing in Michigan right now. I know also the Colorado Commission is looking at best practices and looking at revisions of some of the programs that already exist. Illinois, there's a working group involved in settlement discussions right now. And there are numerous other efforts. And I think it's clear that policymakers and regulators and frankly utility staff and higher leadership are seeing this debt issue as very, very serious and one that needs attention. Now, I would tell you that to add that many utilities in many states are proposing what's called a regulatory asset account, which is basically they take all this debt that they fear is coming, and they're proposing to put that debt into an account that they are simply able to charge off to other ratepayers, to all ratepayers over time, and get an automatic recovery of these debts and foregone revenues that result from people not being able to pay their bills. Well, in some ways, maybe that's one piece of the one solution that may be required. But as advocates, I think it's important for us to really stress that, sure, we're not trying to just gouge the utility company and put the utility company in financial duress, but if utilities are going to be able to collect these monies over time, then there should be contingencies associated with these new regulatory asset accounts. And those contingencies can include writing off debt for low-income households, waiving late fees and security deposits for new customers, making sure that unemployed folks have access to a deferred payment agreement that they can actually afford, and that they're able to renegotiate those agreements if financial circumstances in the household require that they miss a payment from time to time. So, and another contingency, arguably, is that for utilities that don't offer good low-income bill assistance in a comprehensive way, that they do so. So, yes, I think utilities are clamoring right now to come in to minimize the risk that they face associated with the economic crisis, and that's all fine. But I think if they are going to be absolved of risk, households that suffer real risk, life and death risk associated with losing service and having their home energy security undermined should get a little bit of risk reduction too, and some programs and policies that'll help them stay connected. So I hope that addresses your question.
Thank you. That helps give an overview of all the great work taking place the advocates are working on currently with this crisis. Meg, I was going to pass it over to you. Yes, any questions there?
I have one question that John, I think, started to answer. Oh, hi. Which is, you started talking about we have to understand the debt from the commercial industrial customers. We have to understand the utility debt load. And that sounded scary, but I think what you were just saying about making a case on how utilities are going to handle unpaid bills is part of the answer to all that information we've never had before. That, can you say something encouraging about collecting that information and working on the big picture for the utility and making the argument?
Sure. Well, there are a number of states that are able to that have had success in obtaining this data from utility companies on a regular basis, and the data exists. Utilities know who their customers are. They know which customers are behind on their bills. They know who they charge a late payment fee to. So the data exists. And right now, with all of this uncertainty, we're finding regulators are far more receptive than any time I've ever seen in the past to working to ensure that the utilities they regulate provide this information. So it's a great opportunity for advocates and program administrators and folks who work with low-income people at the community level to come forward, make a suggestion about what data points are required, and the likelihood for success now in getting this information is perhaps greater than ever before. Some regulators have contacted NCLC that they ask not to be named and at times, but this has never happened in the past, but they're asking, hey, what should we do? What data do we need? So at Community Action, I think the opportunity, if you're interested to learn more about how your clients and customers are doing, to ask regulators for this information from the utilities now, there's as good a chance as ever that you'll be able to get it. And I would add that we have plenty of sample information requests. We have requests to regulators inside and outside of utility proceedings, laying out what the important data points are, how it should be reported, how it should be made accessible to the public. And there's also had testimony in many states asking for this information. So we basically got ready-made testimony that you can use. Yet there's no pride of authorship here, especially now. But this is, if you want a sample request letter or testimony, just call. I'm happy to share with you anything that's been filed on this topic over the past many years. So it's not nothing to get this information. You have to ask for it, but we've got some experience that you're welcome. You've got access to that you can just use.
John, this is terrific. I mean, these are wonderful tools, and they give people years of head start if they haven't been in this deeply read themselves. Well, Catherine, did we have questions from the audience? If people want to stay a few minutes longer, we can probably keep John.
I don't see any additional questions right now, but if folks have them, feel free to send those along, or you've got John's email there as well, or you can always reach out to Meg Power or myself. So we might be looking to wrap it up here otherwise.
Thanks, John.
Thanks so much to all of you. I really appreciate the invitation to be with you and participate. And good luck to everybody.
So thank you so much, John. Thank you to the National Consumer Law Center and all the time and expertise. Thanks so much, NCAF and Meg Power. And we'll be posting this on our National Community Action Partnership website and also be sending out the slides and the links and a follow-up email. So thanks again. Take care.
Bye-bye.